Hi, everybody. David Nour. I want to welcome you back to another episode of our Intelligent Growth live stream. I usually deliver, we usually deliver this session every week, Tuesdays at noon Eastern, with my partner, Jen Cords. She is heads down focused on a client engagement. So I'm going to go solo this week, and I hope to have her back next week. Also, we're changing the format just ever so slightly in that I'm a content presenter. You'd be delighted to hear nobody ever invites me to an event to teach the audience how to juggle. So you're safe there. I'm going to focus on content, what I'm passionate about, my life's work around this idea of strategic relationships to fuel individual growth, team growth, enterprise growth. And then what I'm going to do is after this session, so we'll go for an hour. And then I'll invite you to join us in our Nour Forum community. It's our private online community. If you go to nourgroup.com/forum, think of it as your favorite butcher, your favorite deli. You don't go there to have your tires changed, right? If I start talking about cooking, I think I would make most of my audience very nervous. So we stay in our wheelhouse of strategic relationships and real innovation and lasting change and transforming the organization. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go there. I'm going to be live in our community, and I'd encourage you to come join us, nourgroup.com/forum, where I'm going to talk about actionable insights. I've always had a bias for action. I've been on the other side of this video or audio and in audiences listening to great presenters present big ideas that I think could absolutely be life-changing. And yet I'm always thinking, not just what, but so what? How is this relevant to me? And then now what? How do I go apply this? And I really want to make, Jen and I talked, I want to make these sessions insightful. We want to make them actionable. So come join us in the forum. Again, right after this, I'm going to go to nourgroup.com/forum. And I'll be live there. And in 30 minutes, I'm going to give you a very tactical, and we're going to do this in each subsequent episode, kind of a tactical next steps. If you watch this video or listen to the audio afterwards on demand, still come to the forum. You'll see in the event section postings of actionable implementation of the ideas that we share from these sessions. So those are a couple of different quick changes to the format. Again, mark your calendar. We're live every Tuesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And I hope you'll join us live on, it's the Nour Group channels on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And then we'll be right afterwards in the Nour Forum community to hopefully continue the conversation and make sure these are actionable. So today's episode is focused on what I've finally become known for. I talk often about the Star Wars trilogy, and no, I'm using that as a reference to really get this point across. I grew up with the original Star Wars, right? Episode 4, 5, and 6, and if you watch any of those individually, my premise is you'll get to know Luke Skywalker. You watch all three, and you go considerably deeper into the character and into challenges and opportunities in his life and how his growth journey from basically a farmer, right, to a Jedi Master, and the role of mentors in his personal and professional growth, and family baggage would be an understatement. But you get to know, you go considerably deeper in that story. Well, the same idea approach is very relevant in the last 3 books that I've written. So Relationship Economics, Mint Green, this is the most recent one, a completely updated new one, Co-Create, and then Curve Benders. And if you think about it, if you read any of these individually, you'll get the gist of what each book is about. Read them all together, and now you have the bigger picture. You have a deeper perspective on this stair step that I'm going to share with you today. So the goal is, in terms of what, share insights, nuggets from each as a stair step. And that's the visual that I want you to think of. Stair step in this growth, your personal growth journey. So nuggets in each, then really how they tie together, how they're relevant together. And then I'm going to invite you again to come join us in the forum, because I'm going to give you a real actionable set of steps. As long as I know me, I've been a grocery list kind of a guy. So I'm going to create and give you 10 steps that you should be thinking about right now, regardless of the economy, regardless of market and market cycles. I still meet way too many people that are worried about things they cannot control. Other than one or two individuals, none of us are the Fed chair. So you have very little control over the economy. You have very little control over the forecast. So focus on, do not let those things become distractions. Focus on your journey. Focus on your personal professional growth. Focus on delivering on the commitments that you make. And I'm going to talk a lot about the relationships you choose to invest in. So if we take them one at a time, relationship economics. This is unequivocally the stair step. And this is the analogy that I want you to think about. The stair step. We all meet professionally contacts. Back in the day, I'm dating myself. Back in the day, there would be stack of business cards. You would go to events, or you'd just meet just raw contacts. And I'm gonna pick a bone with all the automation people and the barrage of emails, unsolicited emails on LinkedIn messages that I don't know if you're getting, but I'm certainly getting bombarded with, and the piece they miss, right? So we'd meet contacts. You interact with these contacts, you engage them, they spark an interest, personally, professionally. Oh, I liked what he said. I like her lens or perspective. You perceive, that's exactly what it is, a perception of an opportunity for a value exchange. So there's a likability factor, right? So I go to an event, I meet someone, I attend something, I meet someone, I get to know them. And the spark or the light bulb that goes off is, ooh, I like what he said, how he said it. I like what she brought to the table. Really enjoyed that conversation. Really enjoyed that perspective. There's a perception of a unique value add. And let's be completely honest, we're all thinking, what's in it for me? And to engage them, to differentiate yourself, you hopefully are thinking, how can I likewise add value back to this person? Why would this person want to spend time? I'm a guest in their journey. That's the mindset shift, right? Not a victim, not a they owe me, not a why wouldn't they want to talk to me? It's how do I add value to this individual? So then you interact. You create some sort of an interaction where you're asking questions, you're adding value, and that contact over several interactions hopefully becomes an acquaintance and a relationship. So it's awareness. They recognize your name. Our name is always our biggest brand. They likewise perceive there's some potential value exchange here. And as you demonstrate the way you show up and you add value, I've often said in every interaction, you have two and only two options. You're either going to enhance the relationship, your credibility, your repute, or you're going to dilute it. So in every interaction, are you enhancing, elevating, amplifying the relationship, your credibility, your reputation, or are you diluting it? And you can recover from, a couple of steps back down, but it just takes more effort and gets harder, right? By the way, we're all being pulled in way too many directions. Our attention span is getting shorter. So there's value in brevity. Please get to the point and add value. The more value you add, the more you prioritize yourself above and beyond everybody else. And I'm also happy to give you some examples. But in this stair-step comparison, so a contact now becomes a relationship. Several interactions, several actually value exchanges. And that relationship, you start to really prioritize them. You start to see them as more than just a transactional. You start to see them as more than just a sale or more than an investment or more than any kind of a transaction, right? What I call a reason for the relationship. And you start to put several of these reasons together, and now it becomes a season. And you suddenly find yourself spending more time with this individual, prioritizing calls and emails with this individual, exchanging greater value with this individual. So if you're visually with me, we're talking about a stair step, a contact, everyday contact, business card, right? This person becomes a relationship with deeper, more meaningful, more relevant exchanges of value. That relationship becomes now a strategic relationship. You genuinely feel like you're better off, your condition is improved because this person is in your life, is in your ecosystem, is in your sphere of interactions. Sociologists tell us that an average individual can proactively manage about 100 to 150 relationships. So $1 million question for you: which ones? And how do you know? And I'm going to give you a glimpse into the tips I'm going to share in the Nour forum. Right after this session, one of the first things you have to do is you have to create a list of your top 10, 20, 30, 50 relationships that are most relevant, most critical to your success, to your journey from now to next. Now you have strategic relationships. In this stair-step visual, strategic relationships now become certain ones. That this is all almost like a funnel, right? So whole bunch of contacts, few become relationships, few of those become strategic relationships, few of those now become co-creators. The days of any of us walking into a room with all the answers are over. Increasingly, we have greater access to information and insights, and now with the advent of AI and much more of that omnipresent in our lives, none of us have all the answers. So the most relevant relationships in your common mission, common vision, or against a common enemy, right? There has to be a lighthouse. There has to be a guiding light of why we're doing this. But the most relevant strategic relationships, two or more parties come together and they are co-creators. Now they've identified a unique opportunity, a unique challenge, right? And they're co-creating the value proposition, co-creating the potential solution to go to market, to partner and differentiate themselves, to elevate themselves from their peers, to get beyond all the noise, right? However, whatever analogy you want to use or context you want to think through, co-creation is about fundamentally differentiating two or more relationships to solve a problem or take advantage of an opportunity. So that's the next stair step. Few of those strategic relationships also leapfrog co-creation and become curve benders. And curve benders are people who leave an indelible imprint on our lives. Curve benders shape not just what we accomplish. So if you think of performance, execution, and results in those early steps, curve benders shape the manager, the leader, the human being that we become. A lot of these, to grow, I've always believed you need three things. You need a certain skill. How do I do something? You need the knowledge from the application of that skill. And you typically need a behavior change. So acquisition of a skill, application of that skill, and gaining that or earning that knowledge. I remind my kids, age is a terrible price to pay for wisdom. And that wisdom is seldom given to any of us. It's earned, right? And by the way, we can hear that wisdom. I love the drive-by experts who've never built anything. They've never led anything. They've never built a team, created a product, gone to market, made a sales call, and yet they're full of all these drive-by advice, right? And people rave about these things. And I'm like, okay, you've never done it, but you know what? It's great to be a professor at a marquee school or a big-time stage presenter. And yet not sure those are Those are earned wisdoms that you're sharing. And really changes in behavior. So behaviors are never a switch, they're always a dial. What do we need to dial up? What do we need to dial back? And curve benders shape, as I said earlier, the manager, the leader, the human being we become. So you hear about servant leadership. And then you work for a manager or you work for a leader who doesn't equate their leadership brand with title or status. And they never ask others to do things they wouldn't do themselves. And every time you meet with them, they ask, how can I help? And what obstacles can I remove out of your way? And the modeling of that servant leadership behavior is what resonates with you. And you make a promise to yourself that when I get the opportunity to lead, I'm going to lead that way. I'm not going to stand there and bark orders. I'm not going to get in people's faces. I'm going to create an environment where they feel like they belong and they want to come contribute to this vision and mission and direction of where we're going, how we're going to get there. And that's the leader I want to become. That's a curve bender that we remember. We remember that relationship 10, 20, 30, 50 years later. So that stair step, in essence, is what I've just described in these books. There you go. There's the Cliff Notes version. No need to read these, right? So in relationship economics, I talk a lot about those early steps. And 20 years into this, 20 years as a student of business relationships, as a advisor, a coach, a speaker on business relationships, I still meet way too many takers. Way too many people who are only thinking what's in it for me. The only reason I'm going to spend time with you is what's in it for me. And they don't invest. They don't prioritize. They intellectually understand that relationships are important. They don't invest in really unearthing, really tapping into their significance. So whether you're looking for a job or you're looking to grow your revenues or you're looking for an investor or you're looking to accelerate the success of that project, or you're trying to create attention, you're trying to garner awareness, I would submit to you the best way 20 years later, I still know how to do that, is through a few, but authentic and real and value-based relationships. So here's an unpopular comment. You don't need more. The fact that we're all after more, I want more contacts. We need more people in our lead generation engine, and we need more people in our sales force. And here are 75 tools that will automate every touch point. Fewer, but deeper, richer, more meaningful, more impactful, more value-based relationships is what's going to help you set you apart. No question. It's very difficult for any of us to make 1 million phone calls or personalize 1,000 emails. And there's a whole lot of really competent, capable tools that will help you do that. I love Randy Seidel as a friend and someone I've coached, past client. And I love his comment of, I might be old school, but there's still something about an individual note, an individual message, an individual outreach that is not automated. Automation brings, and we have a RevOps practice. Jen, my partner, runs that practice, and there's unbelievable capability and functionality with automation. But I still deeply believe in handshakes and looking people in the eye and making fewer commitments, but ensuring that you deliver on those commitments. And maybe it's from the part of the world that some of you may know, I'm originally from the Middle East. Maybe it's that part of the world or other parts of the world that deeply believes in this idea of deeply rooted relationships. And yet I believe those relationships are your biggest asset. They are your only sustainable differentiator. For most of us, our names will stay the same throughout our lives and professional careers. The logos on our business cards or what websites we're on may change. But you as an individual, how you engage, how you influence, the likability factor. I'm not advocating you to become somebody you're not, but the way you identify, build, nurture, sustain relationships on a consistent basis over some period of time takes those individual reasons and creates a season. Put several seasons together, now you're building relationships for a lifetime. And I believe in several I believe to be set up several truths. One of which, it's a combination, it's a hybrid approach. And again, I talk about it in this book. It's a hybrid approach between nature. Some people are born just much more assertive, much more outgoing, much more the extrovert kind of approach. Ever since they were kids, it's really easy for them to make friends. And that, God bless them, that stayed with them as they grew. They walk into any room, they light up the room. No question. Much of that is nature. What you have to understand and hopefully believe is that is a small fraction of the overall population. Most of us are not that way. Most of us, it really is nurture. We pick it up. And I regret, after 20 years, this is still not taught in our schools. This still is not part of many organizations' new hire training or management training or leadership development programs. That is somehow assumed we're going to figure out how to build and nurture relationships. I guess through osmosis. I don't know. But it's typically through modeling of behaviors, both positive and negative, by those that we're surrounded by. So truth number one, it's a balanced approach between nature. I was born a certain way, but also nurture, which leads to truth number two, which we believe it can be taught. And if you build a process, a systematic, disciplined approach to how to identify, how to build, how to nurture, how to sustain, how to request, right, from your relationships, if that's a disciplined approach, you'll dramatically increase your success rate of bridging relationship creation, meeting someone, that first step, contact to a relationship, to relationship capitalization, which is, how do I now become one of those strategic relationships? How do I transform? How do I convert contacts to my most valuable contacts into now personal and professional success, into now I added value, I engaged, I influenced, I added value, I interacted, I invested in, I deposited love and support into this person, into our interactions. I showed up consistently. I showed up delivering on the commitments that I previously made. I added value. I challenged in a respectful and healthy way their assumptions and assertions. And they not only saw it, but they internalized it. They got value from it. They came back for continued interactions with us, between us. In that process, not only have I gotten to know them, but know them well, learn more about their sphere of influence, from their significant other to spouse, kids, right? Others that they interact with, they associate with. And I value this person enough to want to move them up to beyond, in the book I call it relationship currency exchange, to now this is someone that I associate with my reputation capital. And reputation capital is, in many ways, it comes back to the third truth. It's about that balanced approach between giving, taking, in essence, investing in few relationships consistently over some period of time. It's about developing and nurturing that trust And there's been so much written about trust. I've got a very simple formula for trust. Credibility plus empathy multiplied by consistency over time. Let me say it again. Credibility. You know more about this topic, this area than anybody else I know. Plus empathy. You can be quiet long enough to understand where I'm coming from. Multiplied by consistency. You can't do the first two once or twice. That has to be who you are. That has to show up every time you show up, which then is over time. So over time, are you the same person that I meet online when I meet you for a cup of coffee? Otherwise, you're going to create this cognitive dissonance. Wait a minute. That person seemed really personable and genuine. And I don't know if this ever happened to you or not, but that person is really kind of kind, and you meet them and they're a complete jerk. And now you're thinking, not only no, hell no, I don't want to interact with this. I don't want anything to do with this person. And we quickly deprioritize and move on, right? You're not going to get too many chances to disappoint people before they move on. And they choose to, I've had enough. And I don't want to, that person is not only not adding value, they're diluting my credibility. They're diluting my brand. They're diluting my value add in the market, right? So as that individual, as those relationships become a contributor to your reputation capital, this becomes now more of the intangible. And I've often said, if two people were in a room and they were talking about you, what do you want them to hear? What do you want them to say? What do you want them to agree on? Beth is unbelievable at. John is exactly the go-to person we need for blank. Some of that is technical. And I've said it before, I'll reiterate it. You want to establish a preference for your technical skills. Professionally, you want your relationships to prefer to work with you because you have certain technical skills. And that could be legal, it could be engineering, it could be sales, it could be law, it could be any tech, medicine, it could be any technical set of expertise. You want and you need people to insist on working with you for the way you build and nurture relationships, for the way you engage, for the way you're inclusive, for the way you create equitable opportunities for others, for the way you lift them up and bolster their success, for the way you influence how they think and you garner buy-in, not just for products and services, but for initiatives, for key strategic priorities, for things that are critical to the organization. Build an insistence. We have to have Beth, not just because of her technical skills, but the way she, as a technologist, speaks business. We have to have Bill or Hector, not just for his project management skills, but for the incredible way he listens before he responds, or he is always thoughtful when he comments. And he will be invaluable on this project. We have to have him. I'm not doing this project without him. That's an insistence on someone who builds phenomenal relationships. So you exchange relationship currency, you earn reputation capital, and over time, what you really are building is your professional net worth. If you think about personal net worth, there's a set of assets and a corresponding or potentially set of liabilities. The difference is what becomes my personal net worth. Similarly, you have a set of professional net worth. You have some relationship, you have some assets, and you have some liabilities. That really awful manager you're working with that nobody likes or trusts or respects, regrettably, like a good house in a bad neighborhood, right? You could be a great person, but because you're on his or her team and he or she is not respected or trusted, that becomes a liability. That company you're working for is being investigated by SEC for fraud, right? Doesn't matter that you have nothing to do with it. It's guilt by association. And that becomes a liability. You were part of that project that failed miserably and cost the organization tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. You were part of that campaign that lost. You were part of that initiative that, went sideways. You were part of that team that we divested because it just wasn't a good fit. All of those, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not, become part of your liabilities. So just like our personal net worth, the goal is, how do I accumulate assets? And then specifically, I want you to think of relational assets. And how do I minimize relational liabilities? How do I increase my knowledge, my experience, my value add assets over some period of time? And how do I minimize or get rid of those liabilities? So where you work matters. Your company matters. Your industry matters in building your professional net worth. And the reason you should be intentional about building your reputation capital and your professional net worth is because of future opportunities. If not just for yourself, I'm always thinking, how will my kids be treated if they're interviewing for a job and their last name is same as mine? What would have they heard of the brand? Have they thought, oh, isn't your dad, isn't your mom so and so? Great people, fantastic leader. I've read some of his books, great thinker. Does that help my kids? Will that help others that use my name by association, or will that hurt them? That's exactly what reputation capital does. And over our lifetime, our professional net worth in many ways becomes our legacy. It's not killing a bunch of trees and writing these books. It's how do these books impact someone's life? So here's the next truth. Do not confuse your output with outcomes. In relationships, output matters, outcomes and impact matter more. Let me say it again. When it comes to your professional growth journey, when it comes to what you do and how you do it, your output, that report you create, that paper you wrote, that project you worked on, those are important. They're not nearly as impactful as the outcomes and the impact that you create from that work. So the dashboard or the decisions I make or the insights I gather from your report and the decisions we make to improve the business, that's what really matters. And again, way too many people I meet are so worried about, I got to make sure I get this report and the columns right. And unequivocally, yes, that stuff is important. Please, by all means, get the columns and more importantly, get the data on that report correct. But ask better questions of where's this report going? Who's going to see this report? How will they use it? How do I create an executive summary from this report that will change, that will influence, that will enhance their data-driven decision-making? So don't confuse your output, important, with your outcomes and the impact that are critical in our professional settings. So again, relationship economics, first set of steps, how to turn everyday contact. This is the first Star Wars episode. How to turn everyday contacts into invaluable and hopefully strategic relationships that elevate your thinking, elevate your perspective, add enormous amount of value, really start to build, not just exchange relationship currency, the favor economy, but really build your reputation capital, really build and nurture a professional net worth over time. Which then, so if that's the foundation, if that's the 101, if that sets the stage for kind of you continuing up that hill, co-create is the next one. And in co-create, as I said earlier, you cannot co-create with someone you just met. You cannot co-create with relationships you don't know, you don't like, you don't trust. Co-creation is not transactional. Co-creation is not done in isolation. A few strategic relationships that are highly relevant to your growth, to your success, to that proverbial next step in your journey are your co-creators. And it could be two or more parties, but it's really focused on how do we profit. I am unapologetically a capitalist. How do we profit when we not just talk about innovation, but in a very innovative and a very strategic way, collaborate with other similarly purpose-driven organizations? Let me say it again. How does our business, again, everybody's favorite subject is themselves. And again, I don't apologize for these things. We all have obligations. We all have aspirations. We all have greater things we want to reach for. They don't always have to be material. They could be market awareness. It could be accolades. It could be greater impact. I once went to an event with Jim Rogers, who is a local diversity, inclusion, DEI expert is not even the right term. Jim lives it. Jim deeply believes in it. Jim is a lifelong advocate of it. He is all about inclusion. He's all about diversity of thought. And I distinctly remember I went to an event with him, or he was also there, and so was one of his clients from a very recognizable brand who said, we are the company, I'm paraphrasing, but we are the company we are today because of Jim Rogers. And I sat there thinking, that's how I want my clients to talk about us, talk about me and our work together. I want to create that level of impact with the people I work with. And I quickly figured out that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team. So I embarked on this journey to build a team, and let's go really focus on not just more clients, but really the lifetime value of every client. And how do we work on deeper, more meaningful relationships where they profoundly, not incrementally, but they profoundly feel that they're better off because we're in a relationship, because we work together. And we've made some great strides in that journey. But it comes from co-creation. It comes from the mindset of how does our business profit from very intentional, very innovative, very strategic collaboration with like-minded relationships, like-minded, prioritized relationships. And not only in this one, I defined what co-creation is and what it isn't, but what I'm most proud of, and again, in the 30 minutes after this session in the Nour Forum, if you join us, nourgroup.com/forum, I talk about, for example, in this book, the last chapter is a co-create canvas. I've always been tactile. I've always loved, hands-on. And I think ever since I was a kid, drawing, right? And I like the idea of you present an approach, but then give me a template, give me a tool, give me some way of executing on that. And by the way, some way of struggling on that are going to be critical to my success, which leads me to the next truth. I think this is number 5. Struggles, relational struggles, conflict, friction, envy in some ways, all make us stronger, all make us, as I said earlier, I keep telling my kids that this is all white. I didn't paint on the gray hair. I've earned the wrinkles. And what I wish I knew in my 20s was that age with age comes wisdom. And you have a lot of energy. You have a lot of intellect. You have a lot of aspirations at a very young age. What you don't have is the wisdom. And that wisdom takes time. And that wisdom hopefully comes from experiences and some bad decisions that you've learned from. So co-creation is fundamentally, again, I want to reiterate, it's you cannot co-create with new contacts. It's very difficult to co-create with even new relationships. There has to be some history. There has to be some positive past experiences. You remember when we did that thing together and it turned out really well. There's a big reason investors continue to invest in entrepreneurs they've had success with, they believe in, they've been through ups and downs with. The struggle that I mentioned makes you stronger. And they know that that jockey is who I'm betting on, not the horse. It's not the idea. It's that entrepreneur who's had several really successful exits, and they figured out the right formula of the right talent, the right product market fit, the right hustle and scrappiness to go after the marquee client or volume of clients, add value, build word of mouth, and build momentum to get them through the critical milestones. The investors know that, and they keep investing often in those entrepreneurs or teams that work with those entrepreneurs that are shaped that way. So there's a common, as I said earlier, lighthouse in co-creation. There's a common mission, common vision, common enemy, like overregulation. That lighthouse guides everything that we do through these phases. And phase one is all about laying the foundation. That's why I said you have to start with a relationship where you've had a positive, ideally a strategic relationship where you've had a positive experience working with them. And you cover where we've been impactful in the past. You cover what are we scanning, what are we seeing, the situational awareness in the market. Listen, here's something we're seeing. Are you seeing the same thing? And if that's the case, let's go pursue this together. Now, the easiest types of people to co-create with is customers. They have a need. They have the willingness and the ability to pay for that solution. We don't have all the answers. Each side brings a unique recipe, a unique, much needed ingredients to that recipe, and we co-create together. Another really straightforward opportunity for co-creation is hardware. We build software, they build hardware. Together, we bring a solution to the market. Or it's with an integration partner. Again, I'm thinking of some sort of technology where, we have the batteries, somebody else brings the engine, somebody else kits all these things together for the final product to take to market. And there's a lot of strategies like vertical integration. We're going to do all of it. And yet there's still unique expertise that other relationships can bring that enhances. And that's the key. If any party can do all of it themselves, you don't need co-creators. You don't need them. It's a wasted, I've always said collaboration for the sake of collaboration is a waste of time. You don't need co-creators. Conversely, if you can dramatically enhance the product, the final solution, the final experience, the delivery of it through co-creators, now it raises the bar to a very different level. And each party brings something unique that only they can do, or they can do it exceptionally better than anybody else can do it. So you lay the foundation, you design a unique value proposition, a unique go-to-market strategy, a unique sense of the complete puzzle. And then it's really all about execution, because we can sit and dream up. And I love being on whiteboards, and I love being on easel pads, and I can draw up the best strategy you've ever seen. It doesn't mean anything if we can't get it executed. And what I've learned over the years is a very different, mindsets and skill sets and experiences in organizations of those who can design and build versus those who can deliver, versus those who can execute, take to market, and ensure not just the first time implementation is successful, but subsequent value is created. And now you're building that recurring revenue model. Now you're building a SaaS model. Now you're building on that reputation. So if you come to the Nour Forum, we're going to talk about the Co-Create Canvas in a lot more depth, and I'm going to walk you through strategic relationship planning, the Co-Create Canvas, and really the benefits of it, as well as perils of it. which then and that's by the way, there's your cliff notes from this book, right? This 1 hour session worth the price of admission alone, because there's the co-create kind of cliff notes, which then leads us to curve benders. As I said, and you heard earlier, if you joined us late, I talked about a stair step. Contacts become relationships. Relationships become strategic relationships. A few of those strategic relationships become co-creators. A few of those strategic relationships, and potentially, but not always co-creators, become curve benders. So as I wrote curve benders, if you've read the blue one, so we had the green one, relationship economics, yellow or orange, co-create, blue, curve benders. It's all about future of work. It's all about leveraging strategic relationships toward this non-linear growth, toward this idea of linear growth. Learn, learn, learn. Maybe at some point in the future apply is an outdated model. Where we are now, the market is way too dynamic. There's a lot of ongoing challenges and opportunities. There is unintended consequences. There is ripple effect of one division, one product, one part of our business does one thing, and it creates a ripple effect with the rest of our business. All of those dynamics point to definitively the need for all of us to learn more, learn it more quickly, and apply what we've learned to solve a challenge or a problem or an opportunity, and then move on. So the application of that learning becomes as critical as what you've learned. And in curve benders, it's all about identifying. And I create 7 steps, again, going back to tactical approach to how do I bring this content to life. Not only do I identify give to others, but also how do we remain relevant? And I got to tell you, completely selfishly, I thought about myself aging. I've thought about my work, what I love about what I do, and what I'm not as excited about what I do. And I thought a lot about what will the future of work look like for me. And in asking that, in this journey from my now to next, what became just front and center, relevant front and center in my face is you cannot stop learning. You cannot stop growing. And that's that growth mindset, but it's also roll up your sleeves and get in arenas where you're not going to know what you're doing. So, and Erica Anderson is a good friend. She loves this. I think she's written a book with this title, willing to be bad, at first at something. The willingness to be bad demonstrates that you have that growth mindset. And in this one, and again, I'll carry this over to after the session, nourgroup.com/forum for half an hour right after the session. That's where I'll be. And I'll really talk about implementation of some of these ideas. So I talk about this idea of steps to meeting potential curve benders or engaging them. So a personal foundation says I'm very committed to what I'm doing, and I'm committed to being this deal on linear growth, right? So I'm going to continue to learn and grow. I'm not going to stay still. I'm not going to become complacent. I'm going to grow. A professional says I want to be the best. My dad drove this into me. If you're going to be a collector, be the best guard you can on being the best in the role that you have, not the role that you want. A catalyst, a spark that says I've either reached a ceiling or there's greater things I'm after. A mentor tells me that I'm one of the best kept secrets in this country. Great. That is motivation enough never to stop, to make sure you don't remain a best kept secret. You identify those relationships that value what you bring, and you pour love and support into them, both inside the organization as well as outside of it. But that catalyst says it's an awareness of either something that's missing, or it's something that I aspire to reach, I aspire to get to. Then you immerse yourself in what does that journey look like. I'm coaching several people who are in career transition, and I'm reinforcing that there's a direct correlation between your job satisfaction and the level of due diligence you do early on. And critical that you interview them as much as they're interviewing you. So the immersive inquiry is really jumping in and fanning this spark in that catalyst to really explore what's possible, what's potential, what's probable, what's the path forward. Then and only then you identify the strategic relationships. You identify the relationships that are most relevant to where you're trying to get to. If I want to become a vice president, I want to go meet a vice president who's doing that job today and ask great questions to better understand what I'm getting myself into. If I want to serve on a board, I'm going to go meet other board members. I'm going to join board organizations to really understand what does great board stewardship look like, visionary board stewardship look like. If I want to be a president one day, I'm learning all about P&Ls, and I'm learning all about how to engage and influence others. So what relationships do I have that can accelerate my journey to get there? I'm executing with enormous amount of adaptability, agility, and resilience. I'm not letting things get in my way. I get knocked down, I get right back up, and I'm going after it. And I'm keeping my relationships engaged with my progress, where I am, what I'm doing, how are things going, what's working, what's not working, what advice from them I've taken, what advice candidly I appreciated, but it really wasn't as relevant, or I didn't take. By the way, next truth, we're all products of the advice we take. So who are you listening to? Who's shaping the graph that you become in that growth journey? So when I execute and I communicate that with my strategic relationships, I earn the right to request. Language is really powerful. Listen to this. I earn the right to request to a connection cadence, to come back and update them on my progress and ask for their help with the next step. Think about it a second. If in early interactions I take their advice and they invest time to give me advice, and I take those and I do nothing with them, or the old man is just wrong, I completely ignore everything the person just said, or I take their advice and never communicate. Heard you, grateful, I'm taking your advice, I'm incorporating into what I'm doing or what I've done, and I don't go back. I don't ask for, hey, would love to visit once a quarter, would love to visit every 6 months. Can I keep you posted on my progress? That's how I get my return ticket punched. That's how I can request a relational cadence, a connection cadence to come back to those strategic relationships and keep moving my ideas, vision, aspirations forward. So curve benders are all about the future of work, all about surrounding yourself with those that are going to push you to remain relevant. Curve benders are all about reinvention, that personal S curve, and really learning to adapt to very different environments. You want to recession-proof your business. You want to recession-proof your role, your team, your organization. Embrace that personal S curve. Whitney Johnson has written extensively about the personal S curve and that growth, that reinvention, you doubling down on the next investment. Investments in yourself are things that no one can ever take away from us. So when you go earn a degree, I'm teaching my kids, it's not about that stupid piece of paper. It's about, what did you learn? Did you learn how to study? Did you learn to manage your time? Did you learn to effectively manage your budget? Did you learn to surround yourself with quality people? Did you learn to create immersive experiences. So you're learning not just in the classroom, but also outside of it. Did you learn to travel? Did you learn to become a better, decent human being and help others in need? Did you learn to say no and make better, hopefully wiser decisions in that journey? Did you get close to, I'm envious of another client, good friend, Kevin Brogan is still friends with people he went to high school with 50 years ago. I'm envious of those relationships because he didn't just invest and had a great time in high school, but stayed in touch with these people and sees them on a regular basis after going off to college and getting married and having kids and being empty nesters and now kids in college, and right? So it's not just about that degree. It's about the experiences and the wisdom you gain over time. And curve benders, I also, thanks to one of my own curve benders, an executive named Bruce Kasanoff, who asked me over sushi in Park City back in 2016 or 17 when I was just thinking about writing this book. Bruce asked me, Nour, you're giving people a roadmap to profoundly change their own lives. A bigger question that is worth asking is, who are we curve benders for? Whose lives are we impacting as we meet? So none of us are born with any of this information. Who are the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds that you're taking under your wings, and not just teaching them the business or the market or go-to-market strategy, but how to become better leaders and better human beings, and how to transfer some of that wisdom to those that demonstrate they want it. They want to grow. They want to personally and professionally grow. And they demonstrate that through how they show up and how they level up in many ways. So again, if you've joined us late, I hope this session was useful to you. The focus was what I fondly called the Star Wars trilogy, but it's really the collection of these three: relationship economics, co-create, and curve benders. Any one of them will give you hopefully insights on how to build and nurture and dramatically elevate the impact of business relationships in your work, in your life. But if you read all three and you embrace the ideas in all three, you'll go considerably further, deeper, richer in the stair step that I brought up. Contacts become relationships. How to do that? Relationships become strategic relationships. How do you do that? Few strategic relationships become co-creators, where you have a common mission, common vision, or common enemy like overregulation. A few strategic relationships become curve benders, where they leave an indelible imprint in shaping not just what you accomplish, but the manager, the leader, the executive, the human being that you become over your lifetime. So as mentioned earlier, I'm going to go into our private online community called Nour Forum. If you go to nourgroup.com/forum, you can join us there. I'll be live for the next 30 minutes. If you watch a recording of this, if you watch it on demand, if you listen to the podcast afterwards, you're still welcome to come to the Nour Forum. Every Tuesday, my business partner, Jen Cords, and I, who co-host these Intelligent Growth Live sessions together, we'll be in the forum right after this to talk about practical, pragmatic, actionable insights from these live sessions that hopefully you can put to good use. That's also where I'll put templates, tools. It's exclusive for our Nour Forum community. So there's no cost. I encourage you to come join us and really make that a place where you can learn and grow and meet other like-minded business professionals. On behalf of our team, my name is David Nour. You've been listening to Intelligent Growth Live. We're live every Tuesday at noon Eastern. This episode was focused on the Star Wars trilogy, relationship economics, co-create, and curve benders. Look forward to seeing you in the Nour Forum, nourgroup.com/forum, to come continue the conversation. And let's dive a little deeper on how to implement, what to implement from each of these sessions. Otherwise, we hope to see you live on Nour Group on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every week, Tuesdays at noon Eastern. Thanks, everybody. All the best. See you soon.